Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Aronson from the Waverley Singers, and I'm very pleased to be joined for this conversation by Elizabeth Cooney, who is a distinguished violinist and who is performing with us in our Exaltation concert on Saturday, the 21st of March at 7 p.m. in Guildford Cathedral. And I'm very pleased that she's able to be with us today. Elizabeth, hello.
Hello, how are you doing, Mike? Nice to meet you online.
Nice to meet you, and thank you again for sparing the time. Now, this is going to be a fantastic concert. I mean, it's really, really interesting, imaginative program that our music director, Richard Pierce, has put together. And he's designed it to work in the very reverberant acoustic of Guildford Cathedral. So he's sort of chosen music that kind of goes up and, doesn't necessarily come down, which is great because it will fit that acoustic perfectly. So we're going to talk about the music that you're going to play in a minute, but maybe before we get into that, you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you came to become a professional musician. You're obviously from Ireland originally, so how do you come to be living in Farnham? Tell us your story a bit.
I took up the violin at the age of 5. I was in the Suzuki method that I loved. And I grew up in Cork, Cork City in Ireland. And the music scene there to this day is very vibrant. And I just loved playing lots of music with my friends and chamber music and solo and orchestral as well. And then eventually came to London and went to the Royal College of Music. And I've been here since I was 18 and I love it here. Like London is such an incredible city for music. It's just endless possibilities and opportunities. And I have so many friends here. But then 15 years ago, Nick, my husband, and I, we had a daughter, Sophia, so we decided to move out further from London. And it's a lovely place to bring up our daughter. And the countryside is beautiful.
Yes, Farnham is a really special place, isn't it? And we're very glad that you did because that means you're nearby and you
Yeah,
give concerts locally and as
yeah.
well as internationally. I mean, you've got a stellar reputation with the Aurora Orchestra and all sorts of other distinguished groups. I won't embarrass you by sort of going through them all. But anyway, we're very pleased that we're going to be able to do this concert with you. So maybe we should just talk a bit about the music and let's start with this version of Vaughan Williams' The Lark Ascending, scored by Paul Drayton for solo violin and mixed choir, which we've been rehearsing a lot, obviously without the violin. But it's a fascinating experience, actually, sort of getting into the sort of underbelly of a piece like that when one is what one's used to hearing is the bit on top, the bit that you're going to be doing. And I wonder, have you ever done this piece before in
I
this
have it
arrangement?
once in yes, this arrangement in Romsey Abbey, and Richard Pierce suggested that we collaborate again with the Waverley Singers, and he's such a wonderful musician, and I think he's put a program together that will be particularly beautiful and evocative for the audience. That, like you said, it suits a massive space of Guildford Cathedral that I'm lucky to be playing in. So this particular version of the Lark Ascending, I think, is quite ethereal. It's also challenging. I would say the main thing for us when we rehearse, first time I think tonight, will be to make sure that we're on the same plane to do with intonation and everything like that, and to keep that very constant. But I think it's a natural thing as well to for the violin to play with the singers, because I think violin is one of the closest instruments to the voice naturally. So I'm hoping that will work very, very well. It takes quite a lot of concentration to really lock in and make sure that we're on the same page musically, etc. But I mean, it's such a masterpiece as well, so it will hopefully unfold really,
Well,
really well.
well, I mean, we're really can't wait to sort of hear you alongside us. That'll be great. Now, I can't help noticing that you're holding your violin there, Elizabeth, and I'm just wondering whether you might be persuaded to play a little bit of the Lark Ascending for us.
Yeah, well, I thought I might play a little snippet from the very, very end, which is just solo violin. And it seems to be like, the poem by George Meredith. The violin just kind of emulates the lark, and you can hear it kind of swooping and diving. And then towards the very end, it just kind of seems to disappear into the sky, into the ether, gets higher, literally ascending.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much for that. That's really wonderful. And as you say, it really is a case of it all goes heavenwards at the end, doesn't it? It's a sort of magic
Yeah.
moment.
It's almost kind of celestial at the end. And I think there's a reason why it's incredibly popular piece year after year. Because I think it takes people to places where they're just very reflective, and maybe to a time it was written on, as you know, on the eve of the First World War. So maybe it takes people to a time where things were maybe simpler. It's very pastoral in nature. It uses the pentatonic scale. So Vaughan Williams, he travelled the country, he travelled England collecting, just as Bartók did in Hungary. He collected about 800 folk tunes, and he had this fascination with English folk tunes. And you can hear that rustic, earthy element, even all the kind of open strings as well, even the very beginning. The simplicity of it is kind of disarming. And that you get often in folk music as well, which is really beautiful, the purity of it. And then kind of portraying.
How would you rate it? I mean, as a violinist, how easy or difficult is it to play?
It's not that easy. It's not an easy piece to play. Because later on there are also folk tune, which is not, as far as I know, a named folk tune, but it sounds very folk to me. But then later on you have, he gives the violinist quite a workout. You have fifths and you have octaves, and it's a virtuosic piece. It's also very exposed. It can feel like a bit of a high wire act. So I think you need to be kind of in the zone to play it in quite a calm place. Once you've dealt with the technical issues, in the practice room, then when you bring it onto the stage, I think it's quite a spiritual, hopefully, experience, because it's otherworldly also in its nature. I think it's incredibly beautiful.
The first piece is, I imagine, something very, very different, although we haven't heard it yet. And that's the piece by the American composer Missy Mazzoli, which is called Vespers for Violin. So tell us why you've chosen that and what that's going to be like.
Well, I think when Richard Pierce, was choosing this program, I was kind of collaborating with him on ideas. And I suggested maybe just as a major contrast, a short contemporary piece by a living composer, American, Missy Mazzoli. And this particular piece is very atmospheric. Again, it's a little bit ethereal. It's miles away from the pastoral kind of portrayal of Vaughan Williams, but it has its own magic, and it's for violin and electronics. So the electronic bit is already written down by her, and that kind of is you work with laptop and the speakers. So it's the trick is with playing the notes, but there's a delay. And so we're literally using the acoustic that is very reverberant in the huge cathedral to our advantage. So it'll be even more reverberant because of the electronic element. So that is the plan.
Gosh, I mean that really does sound interesting.
Yeah, I think it will work. Hopefully, yeah.
I'm sure it will.
Fingers crossed. But it's a really good contrast to the other pieces, but it is still relevant because Vespers, as you know, is kind of evensong in Latin. So there's a spirituality to it that fits the the spirit of this program.
Then the third piece you're going to play is more sort of conventional, better known, but one of Bach's violin sonatas. But interestingly, you're going to interweave the movements from that in with the movements from the Vaughan Williams Mass in G minor. So both are in G minor, so they obviously fit well together. But I wonder, I mean, that is another original idea. How did
Yeah.
how did that come about, and what do you think about that?
That was Richard Pierce's idea, and I think it's a great idea. I think it should work very well. And again, I think it will kind of provoke reflection from audience because, like the Mass by Vaughan Williams was written in 1921, so that was just after the First World War, where he was an ambulance driver in France. So I think he was pretty shaken from the experience, and he kind of wrote this Mass that was very reflective in nature, and it's in 5 movements, and the Bach is in 4 movements, which was written approximately 200 years before Vaughan Williams wrote the Mass. And I think they will go very well together. The kind of peaceful nature of the Bach will fit well, I think, with the Mass.
Well, when you get to the end of that, you'll have really done quite a lot of work in the evening.
Yeah, yeah. But I like to have the challenge of all, especially when the program makes sense and it's curated with thought, like this one.
And of course, we haven't to
Not
mention
just for
that
us to
the
play,
concert actually
but
starts with um, uh, a Te Deum, a very sort of different, very different sort of mood, sort of more of a sort of laudatory triumphant move to get us going, and then we go into this sort of more reflective mood for the rest of the concert. So it's going to be a good concert. But I guess if you were talking to a friend or somebody who said, "Well, that looks interesting, but I'm not sure I really want to go to that," what would you say to them to try to persuade them to come along on the 21st of March?
well, I would hope that they wouldn't need much persuasion, but if they did, I would say that I think it will be an uplifting concert, and that more than ever, right now, 2026, we all need to hear music of this caliber, which is so beautifully thought out and which is very very evocative and reflective, but also that just for kind of give yourself an oasis of calm, amongst what we're all living very, very busy lives. So I think this particular program will really, you know, unlock that for a lot of people.
I'm sure it will. And thank you again, Elizabeth. Really appreciate your taking the time and talking, not
Pleasure.
only talking to us, but also playing for us. That's been really great. And we look forward to working with you on the day.
Yes, absolutely. Very much looking forward to it. I'll see you soon.
Thanks a lot. Bye for now.